Semi-final match now, the second last match of the series, Chris Batson and Brian Bridges in this P&O Cruises Invitational Tournament. Chris Batson, the incoming bowler, has a great record. He's won many tournaments. He has 300 games, the only bowler in Australia to have bowled 3 times the perfect game. And of course, if one of the bowlers does it here today, they'll receive $2,000 from AMF. Chris Batson bowling with a new ball. It's the Columbia Orange Dot, and this one hits harder than any ball yet released. Let's have a look at how this one hits. Oh yes, let's have another look at that. That was a great strike to open the program. Semi-final match. His opponent Brian Bridges, who put Eric Thompson out of business last week. Bridges will have to be on his game to win this one. And that's a strike. Big deal, says Brian. He crossed over to the Brooklyn side of the head pin. He hit in the 1-2 pocket, which is not good for a right-hander. He's not happy with that, and Batson, I'm sure, just worrying about his own game. Batson wears a new wrist guard, also something new in Australia. And let's have another look at that strike. 2 strikes in a row for Batson. Could this be his 4th 300 game? Brian Bridges needs a strike, and that's right in the pocket. So we've opened up with 2 strikes in a row for each bowler. Chris Batson, the first win of his was in the 1974 South Pacific Classic. And he's looking like he's after another win. He won the Canberra Cup twice in 1980 and 1981, and he has the World Games Mixed Doubles gold medal from last year. Very accomplished bowler. Is this his 3rd strike? Oh, I'm afraid we're going to have another look at this one, because this ball is just tearing the pins to pieces. 5-pin, the last pin to go. Bridges needs a turkey to stay with him. Oh. Well, Brian, I think you can count yourself lucky that that 7-pin went over then. You've left only the 9-10 up, but it could have been anything. The ball really dived in at the end there. Needs to put the ball in between the 9 and the 10. Show of concentration. Bridges needs to go in between the 2 of them, and he's just failed to have the ball to the left of the 10-pin far enough. The ball would have hit both of those pins over. And if you're interested in going and having a game anywhere, there are 94 bowling centres in Australia, catering for an estimated 220,000 bowlers that play every week in this country. So you can try out what you've been watching the last few weeks all over Australia. Batson, 4 strikes in a row. Only 8 strikes to go for $2,000. But the object, of course, is to beat Brian Bridges and have an opportunity to win the P&O Cruise next week. Brian not out of it, of course. It's another 8 frames to go after this, but not doing it easy at the moment. 2 strikes, and then he had the miss in the last frame. He's going now for the 6-10, bowling across lane. Always use as much of the lane as you can. You've noticed in the last 7 weeks, all of these bowlers have always bowled across the lane at all of their spares. I don't think we've seen anyone that hasn't gone for their spares that way. Batson, 4 strikes in a row. Can he make it 5? Taking his time. Looks pretty level as he releases the ball, but unfortunately seemed to rush the shot at the foul line. The ball fell off his thumb and didn't have any fingers on it either. So he's missed the head pin. That's the end of that perfect game, perhaps. Bridges has left the same thing and the 10-pin. Nice and level, Chris. Good spare. Let's have a look at that one again as it hits the pins. The ball carries through and takes the 8-pin. Brian on on the other hand, will have to slide the head pin across to the 10 pin. He has to slide the front pin across to that corner pin. And he's only taken one. The scores at the present time, Chris Batson well ahead in the fourth frame, 107 to 72. Of course, the more strikes you get, they really mount up. Strike counts 10 plus the next two balls, and Chris had 4 strikes in a row, so that's why he's so far ahead already. Up now in the 6th frame, and it's another strike. Oh, pity that he missed the head pin on that last frame. It would have been nice to see 6 strikes in a row up there. Chris's score now in the 5th, 127. Brian Bridges, 2 open frames. He's only 79, 48 pins behind. And he's changed balls, but this yellow dot hasn't done him any good. And notice the ball return there has quite a cluster of bowling balls on. I think there's 6 or 7 bowling balls out there, and Brian and Chris both carry a lot of equipment when they go away. Each of those balls weighs 16 pounds as well, so it's pretty hard to get up the stairs sometimes. Well, he's covered that spare. But wondering what he did to deserve Chris Batson in such an aggressive mood. Batson, 4 strikes in a row, a spare and a strike in the 6th frame. He's up now in the 7th. Batson, one of the most accomplished bowlers in Australia. He's been in the Australian FIQ team many, many times, representing us overseas, and he's distinguished himself many, many times with shots just like that one. Chris has bowled in the World Championships in 1975, 1976 and 1981. And he finished 8th in New York just a few months ago in the Bowling World Cup of last year. Oh, let's have a look at that one. That was luck personified. Brian Bridges going very high on the head pin in this replay, and the pins just did all the work for him. Chris Batson is going to bowl a very high game here. The highest game we've seen so far is Eric Thompson's 205 of a few weeks ago. Batson already 127 in the 5th, 2 strikes, and that was a little bit of bad luck. Left the 4 pin up. Let's have a look at why he left it. High on the head pin again. He usually bowls an inside line, which means the ball travels down at a different angle towards the pins, but he seems to favour the outside line here at Squash Bowl, and it hasn't done him any good in this match. Meanwhile, Batson looking very cool, calm and collected. 176 in the 7th frame, heading towards a 230, the best match we've seen so far. Brian can't quite get his act together. Only 119 in the 7th frame. Both bowlers have spares in the 8th. Chris Batson currently 2nd in the pin action ratings and 9th in the official ATBC ratings. But as I said, Chris has been away for a couple of months this year, bowling overseas, and consequently hasn't accumulated as many points as if he'd been staying at home. Chris was also the first bowler in Australia to receive a government grant. But we're back with Bridges now. That's not going to fall, so Brian has an 8 count. Chris also 8, so there's 57 pins the difference. Chris changes balls for the spare. Bowlers are very versatile these days. When I was playing in tournaments, you had just one ball, and it was a black one, and you just found a way in with it, baby. You didn't do anything else. But these days they have such a great variety of equipment on the market, and the bowlers, you know, really delve into the game a lot more these days. Bowling's been going for 21 years now, and it's only in the last few years that these developments have come to light. A great game by Chris. A bit of bad luck there that he left the 9 pin standing. We'll have another look at that one. The ball Bit very late on the lane, came in high, and the 4-pin failed to collect the 9. This is the 10th frame. Brian not happy. He said after last week's match that it was so hot out there that his glasses started to steam up. I wouldn't be surprised. It's pretty hot commentating too. Well, Batson spared the 10th frame. 2:13 in the 9th. This will be the greatest score we've seen on the series so far. And Ryan, oh well, I guess he thought, I've lost the match and I'll try something different. He moved to an inside line, but the ball again failed to come up. So Bridges finishes with a game of 161. Chris Batson, very, very good match. Very good game. Finishing with a strike for 233. So that's the biggest margin we've seen. But Chris Batson giving us quite a thrill early in the game, starting with 4 strikes in a row
against her toughest opponent. Also, our thanks to Keith Merton and Malcolm Poole for that